Jeniffer Rubin is a Republican who writes an opinion piece for the Washington Post pretty regularly. Her latest one is titled "The Trump Swamp Will Deepen." She joins us now with her assessment of the president-elect. Jen Rubin, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So everyone's trying to figure out, how this happened, and the Democratic Party is going through this process where they're trying to decide whether or not to take Trump voters seriously, whether to dismiss them as bigots or to acknowledge maybe there were some legitimate concerns. You are a Republican writing a column on the right for the Washington Post, and I wonder where you are now. I want to read you your assessment, since I read it. I'm from Washington. You wrote this in October of this year. As the old white males who made up Trump's base and Fox News' TV audience literally die off over the ensuing decades, there'll be insufficient numbers to stand on the hill of irrational and unpopular stances on immigration restrictionism. And then you go on to attack, as you have a number of times, white males, angry white males. The immigration ploy is not about jobs or terrorism, but angry white males who think the country is changing. Have you revised your view, or do you think it's just about racist white men?
Well, first of all, that passage doesn't say it's just about racist men. It states a fact, which is true, that Trump's demographic is older and whiter. And although it didn't happen in this election, at some point there will not be enough white people just to rely primarily on that demographic. And it's happening at a rate of about 2 to 4% each year that the percentage of white voters goes down. So it's simply a truism that although it was an extraordinary election, that it worked this time, so to speak, with a celebrity and with Hillary Clinton on the other side, let's not forget.
Right.
It's not a winning strategy over time.
Okay, I want to let you articulate your point of view, but I have to challenge you on one thing, and that's your claim that it's true and that you can support it, which is, of course, totally false. Let me refer to your words here. September 22nd, you wrote this, and I'm quoting: Trump immigration ploy is not about jobs or terrorism, but angry whites who think the country is changing. Do you have access to some special poll the rest of us haven't seen that proves that it's not about jobs, it's about their anger based on race? You don't know that, and you claimed it anyway. Why?
Well, you just asked a different question than the one you accused me of lying of. Yes, I do have evidence that the white demographic is declining. That's a statistical fact.
No, but you're talking about motive here.
No, now you've asked a different question, so let me answer this question. When you look at Trump voters in a variety of testing modes, they have more negative attitudes towards African Americans and towards Hispanics. They very strongly support...
African Americans are not immigrating to the country, so that's not really, it's a different category here.
When you say racist, I didn't know that you were referring
Let me just, for the third time, read what you said. The immigration ploy is not about jobs or terrorism, but about angry whites. You're saying they're racist. It's not about jobs or terrorism. They're pretending it is, and I'm asking you, do you have evidence for that, or are you just dismissing them as bigots because you can't imagine another explanation?
No, I assume that people are rational, and that, I guess, was a big mistake for this election. It's not rational.
You're claiming they're irrational, actually.
I'm claiming that they're just wrong, and that Donald Trump did a very good job of perpetuating the myth that they're wrong.
No, you're claiming that they're immoral. You're saying they're racist. That's not wrong. You're saying they're bad people. It's about angry whites who think the country is changing. Okay, so here's my point to you. Why would you write something like that in a newspaper without having any fact to back it up? Unless you somehow have access to the inner thoughts of Trump voters, why would you imagine you know their motives? That's my question.
We have lots of facts. In fact, people have written entire books this year. There's sociological
analysis. So what are your facts?
Analysis.
I'm giving you a chance to present them.
All right. There are a lot of Trump voters who have very negative feelings towards African Americans and towards
What does that have to do with immigration? Jen, let's stick to the topic here.
Can I finish the point?
I wish you would.
Can I finish the point? They have negative views about various minority groups. We also know that the average Trump voter is not affected by immigration and displacement. They're about $72,000 a year in the economic strain, so that's pretty good for them.
So they're not. You think that's pretty good? Is that what you make? You think that that's enough for people to make that they're not affected by immigration?
Much higher. It's much higher than the average American. So it's not the people
who are hurting the most. So they've got no cause for complaint.
It is also happening in areas in which the influx of minorities has been the fastest and the heaviest. In other words, white areas of the Midwest who have had an influx of people, and
here's my point to you. Look, you're making a very serious charge. I think this is an interesting debate. There are two sides to it, two legitimate sides. But before you call people racist, you better have some real evidence, and you don't. And I just ask you to marshal it, and you don't have it. No, you don't.
That's not true.
You don't know their motives. You can't know their motives. So how about don't speculate on them?
Well, listen, we all draw conclusions, and there is evidence. There is polling evidence.
Yeah,
in fact,
okay.
it created quite a stir, you remember, before the election, that Trump voters do have more negative views of minorities than non-Trump voters.
So that's probably why they don't want increased immigration, because they're bad people. I've heard that before, and I just, you know what? That's evidence of contempt for voters, of ignorance, and an unwillingness to understand their point of view, and it's unhelpful, and I think, you know, you should be above that. I guess that's the point I would make. We're out of time. Thanks for joining us. Jeniffer Rubin from the Washington.